good day. Happy Wednesday. So as you can see from above, a couple of different topics I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about dieting specifically, and then I'm going to give you some solutions as well. So it means that you'll never have to diet again really for the rest of your life, but still get great results. Also, just a quick mention for everybody that's on the 28-day challenge. We are starting week 3 today. So I hope it's been going well for you so far. And as I mentioned yesterday, I'd like everybody on a weekly basis, every Tuesday or Wednesday, just to email me over some screenshots of their food to make sure that you're staying on track and keeping on top of things. So 2 of you have done it so far. So a big shout out to you. It's great that you're putting in that little bit of extra effort, because it'll really mean that you're going to get better results in the long term. Because ultimately, you know, if you track your calories and you keep on top of that and you're aware of how much protein, fat, carbs and overall calories you have coming in, it means you're going to be able to stay in a calorie deficit, and it means you're going to be able to tone up and get the results that you want. So I'm going to move on to today's topics, and as usual I have them all written out on a sticky note, and I'm going to give you 5 of the biggest reasons why you should never go on a diet and why you literally do not need to diet. And so the first thing about dieting is that the mentality when you start a diet, it can be very all or nothing. And what I mean by that is, you may have experienced this before, but basically where you can start a diet and it might be going really well for, you know, the first 4 or 5 days, maybe even for the first 1 or 2 weeks. But eventually you'll get to a point where there'll be one day where something will happen, something stressful might happen, or you just might be really busy, where what happens is you end up going off track, and then you get into the mindset of, oh, you know, I haven't stuck to my diet today. I had 1 or 2 bad meals. You know, fuck it, basically. You know, like, what's the point of doing it now? I've kind of already failed for one of the days. There's no point continuing. And that all or nothing mindset is really, really unhealthy and negative, especially with diets, because when you're in the all or nothing mindset, you're pretty much setting yourself up for failure. And that was the next thing. The second reason why you should never diet is because you are essentially setting yourself up to fail, because inevitably there's always going to be a point at some time. It could be in the evenings or at the weekend. You might be meeting up with friends or going to something with your family, or there'll be something that pops up where you want to have a couple of drinks, or you want to have some cake or some cookies or ice cream or some nice food that you've been looking forward to all week. And unfortunately, when you are trying to stick to like a perfect diet, there's ultimately going to be a time where you want to have those foods, and then when you do consume those foods, then you end up feeling guilty about it, and then you go back into that mindset of like, oh, there's no point continuing now because I've already failed. So with diets, you're essentially setting yourself up to fail. Another thing about diets is a lot of the time they're too restrictive. So what you'll see is, you know, there's hundreds of different types of diets out there, and people will tell you that, you know, oh, you have to cut out protein, or you have to cut out carbs altogether, or you have to cut out fats altogether, or you have to cut out all of your favorite foods, or you have to go cold turkey on alcohol, or you have to just stop, you know, eating all of your favorite or nice foods. And when you're too restrictive like that, what's going to happen after 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 weeks is eventually you're just going to get sick of it, and you're going to be like, fuck this is terrible, and it's just not enjoyable. And that brings me on to my next point, where the most important part of getting results, especially with food, is having some enjoyment to it. Because obviously food should be a really positive thing in our life, and if it's not enjoyable, you're not going to be able to stick to your diet, and if you're not able to stick to your diet, you're not going to get results, and you're just setting yourself up to fail, like I mentioned earlier. The other part about, and the 5th reason why you should never diet, is because it's just not sustainable. When have you ever heard of somebody doing a diet for their whole life? They don't. It doesn't happen because it's not sustainable. A diet is something that you can maybe stick out for 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 to 8 weeks if you're really mentally strong, but eventually you get to the point where you're not going to be able to do it anymore because you just don't enjoy it, it's not sustainable, and you end up hating it. And so they're the 5 biggest reasons why you should never diet, and essentially why you don't need to. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap over to my other sticky note, and I'm going to give you 5 of the main things that you should focus on. And basically, you don't need to diet at all, because what you need to focus on is making simple lifestyle and habit changes. And that's going to be the most powerful thing that you can do, because you're obviously, you might live for another 20, 30, 40, 50 years, and your lifestyle is always going to be something that's going to be fairly consistent across those years. So if you can make some small changes with your lifestyle and make some small changes with your habits over time, obviously a habit takes anywhere from maybe 4 to 6 weeks to get into the flow with, or get into the swing with. So once you create a habit, it really becomes kind of something you do on autopilot and something that you don't really think of. So if you spend 4 or 6 weeks focusing on really positive habits that are going to help you, you literally won't need to diet for the rest of your life. So what are some of those habits? Well, really simply, focus on getting enough protein each day, because when you eat enough protein each day for your weight, the easiest way to calculate it is take your weight in kilos, multiply it by 1.5. So if you weigh about 60 kilos, you're going to aim for roughly about 90 grams of protein per day. And the great thing is, if you get into the habit of eating protein-dense foods, like different meats, like chicken, red meat, or if you're a vegetarian, going for things like edamame beans or corn or tofu, there's loads of different protein options out there. When you have 2 or 3 really good protein-rich meals each day, that's going to be a simple habit that you can set up. And when you get enough protein each day, it keeps you feeling full. It means you won't get any cravings for sweet foods. It's going to give you good energy levels. It's going to help you to tone up faster, and it's going to also help you to recover more from your training. So getting in enough protein each day is going to be a really positive habit that you can have for the rest of your life. The next thing is with carbohydrates. Obviously, I love carbohydrates. I eat ice cream all the time. I eat caramel squares. I eat all of that good stuff. And it's going to be more sustainable if you continue to include carbohydrates in your diet and not feel like you have to restrict yourself. Now, the next thing you have to focus on is, that you can have carbs, but it's about having it in the right amounts. And so basically, if you track your food and make sure that you have lower carbs on your non-training days, and the days that you are training having a little bit more carbohydrates, so then you can reward yourself on the training days with a little bit more carbs, because obviously carbs are going to give you fuel and going to give you loads of energy. And so that's a really positive habit there, because over time what will happen is, on the days you train, you realize, oh, I can have maybe an extra 20 to 40 grams of carbohydrates, and I can actually reward myself with that. So now you're rewarding yourself with the carbs you enjoy, and you're also getting your training done as well. So again, that's another really positive habit that you're building for the rest of your life to get really good results. The other thing, obviously I mentioned one of the really bad things about diets is that they can be all or nothing, and that like one bad meal or one bad day can completely throw you off. So one thing that you can focus on, and could be a habit from now on, is focusing on your net weekly calories. So when you focus on your net weekly calories, it doesn't matter if you have one bad day or one bad meal, because one bad day or one bad meal can't throw you off course when you focus on your net weekly calories. So what I mean by that is, for example, if you know that you need 1,500 calories per day to slowly tone up and to slowly lose a couple of pounds or whatever your goals may be. If you need 1,500 calories per day, all you do is you multiply that by 7 days per week, and then roughly 1,500 by 7 is going to be somewhere around the 10,000 mark. So if you now know that you need on average about 10,000 calories per week to achieve your goals of toning up, then all you need to do is focus on tracking your food. And then it doesn't matter, some days the calories might be a bit higher, some days the calories might be a bit lower, but over the course of the week they'll balance out at around 10,000. So now you don't need to worry about having, if there's one bad meal or one bad day, because ultimately the whole goal is to get that balance over the course of 7 days. So then that moves you away from having to worry about one bad day or the all or nothing approach. The next thing is that's pretty much it. They're like the 5 main points when it comes to building sustainable habits, having sustainable lifestyle changes that ultimately will allow you to tone up and to achieve your body and physique goals in the long term without having to do a diet. So I hope that video was helpful. If you have any questions based on anything that I talked about there, feel free to message me. You can contact me here on Facebook, or you can send me a message on Instagram, or email me elan@coachelan.com. No such thing as a stupid question, so feel free to get in touch. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So I hope you enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, and I'll be speaking to you again soon.